One of the principal virtues that we embrace as Christians is obedience, and it comes from the Latin, which means to listen. When we think of Jesus, we think of the Son obedient to the will of the Father, even unto the point of death. So even though Jesus is God, he is still obedient to the Father. He does the will of the Father. He does what the Father asks of him. And obedience then doesn't mean just this slavish conformity to injustice or to something that is wrong, but it does mean that we're called to have a listening heart to the voice of God in our life and to obey what the Lord asks us to do. Because we know that the Lord never asks us or commands us to do anything that's evil or that's going to be ultimately bad for us. So all that he asks is that we do what is good for ourselves in the end, but because that is what God's will is for us. So the goal is not that we kind of white knuckle our way through life and kind of grit our teeth and say, yes, Lord, I'll do this because you want me to. But rather that gradually the Lord will soften and expand our hearts so that we can sincerely come to the conclusion that, Lord, I want what you want for me. I want for me what you want for me. And when we can come to that point, then we can more easily surrender to what the Lord and the church ask of us. I think of that in my own life, especially as a bishop, being asked to move and take on a different assignment in a different diocese, one case in a different state. And there's a freedom in just doing what you're asked to do. There's a freedom in just surrendering. And we see sometimes what that surrender costs when we look at Jesus in the agony in the garden. But in the end, in the lives of the saints, even when they obeyed in difficult situations, nothing is ever lost by being obedient to the voice of God and to the church in her teachings and in her life. So when we give ourselves to Christ and are obedient to him, then all will be well for us, even if it means that we're going to suffer or have great difficulties. So being obedient doesn't mean that we're going to have an easy life. In fact, in some ways, our life will probably be more difficult, more crosses, more challenges. But we know that we're striving to do the right thing and that God is calling us. So think of throughout the scriptures are filled with characters who were simply obedient and available to the will of God. From Abraham and Sarah to Moses to David to the Blessed Virgin to Saul to the apostles and ultimately, of course, Jesus himself. When we're obedient to the Lord, good things happen because we're conforming our lives to his will and to his goodness.